To look in. Right. The light in my eyes, so anyway. Fellow citizens and residents, welcome to Leadership Matters. Leadership for you and, of course, your Team Unity leadership working for you. On tonight's Leadership Matters, I have the honor and privilege of hosting two of my cabinet colleagues in the Honorable Shawn Richards, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Education et al. I also have the pleasure of having the Honorable Ian Patches Liburd, Minister of Public Infrastructure, etc. Tonight we are here as part of our public education and awareness program with regard to the coronavirus in particular, but any matter of relevance to our citizens and residents. So far, we have been very fortunate that as the world is being destabilized as a consequence of the COVID-19, many of us here in St. Kitts and Nevis are still alive to tell the story of our struggle and eventual triumph over this dangerous pandemic. We want to thank God that to date no lives have been lost in St. Kitts and Nevis, and our hospital and health services in general are adequate to our needs. We take note too that the COVID-19 has infected near 3 million persons and, of course, have killed just about 200,000 persons. For this, we see how fortunate we are in St. Kitts and Nevis, and we give God thanks. Clearly, our early proactive actions by restricting travelers' entry, enforcing a mandatory quarantine, and closing our borders has helped us save lives. And we now have an opportunity to reorganize our lives, notwithstanding the challenges and inconveniences which we face, pick up the pieces and to start life again. I am optimistic that together St. Kitts and Nevis would emerge as a stronger, better, and safer place in the future. Clearly, our Team Unity government has demonstrated that we have a long-term plan to keep St. Kitts stronger, safer, and healthier after COVID-19. We must stick together, of course, to see the plan through to the brighter promise of a St. Kitts and Nevis. I know at this particular moment in time, all eyes are looking at St. Kitts and Nevis, the smallest country in the hemisphere, for leadership and for best practices. Let me, from the very onset, say how much gratitude and admiration we have for the excellent work that is being done by our frontline officers. Our health practitioners have been exemplary leaders, and in particular I commend our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Hazel Laws, and Dr. Cameron Wilkerson, our Medical Chief of Staff, and all the others who have formed the medical brigade that is fighting day by day with all they got to ensure that our people remain safe. I want to thank the leadership of the NEOC, and in particular Chairman Abdia Samuel, for the excellent way in which we have been able to bring all of society, all willing hands, all able minds, all who love St. Kitts and Nevis together to make a contribution to advance our success in this battle of a lifetime. I must also thank all the other frontline workers, our security forces, police, defense force, customs, immigration, and all the entities, the business sector, the churches, and all those who have been supportive of this effort. We must look to the future, and as we look to the future, we must be careful not to tarry back to a past. Clearly, as we look forward to that better and brighter future for St. Kitts and Nevis, we know that we can't go back to the past of high VAT, the past of high IMF debt and 10 streets. Now certainly is the time for continuing the prudent fiscal management that has allowed St. Kitts and Nevis so far to respond to this crisis and to keep us safe. Imagine if St. Kitts and Nevis was still burdened with a $117 million debt to the IMF as we face this crisis. Imagine if St. Kitts and Nevis was still burdened with over $100 million debt to the government of Venezuela as we face this crisis. Certainly, we would not have been able to respond with the generous and most comprehensive stimulus package that the region has seen, that has provided support to our farmers and fisher folks all over St. Kitts and Nevis, that has provided support to the workers in our hotels, in the restaurants, the braiders, the busmen, all who have been in hospitality and in tourism sectors, and who were affected adversely as a consequence of the pandemic. Had it not been for the prudent management over the last 5 years, St. Kitts and Nevis would have been like some countries, unable to offer any support. I want to ask our people not to take what we have been able to do over the last 5 years for granted. The gains that we have made could easily be overturned if we were to return to the past. And so I ask that we continue to hold the faith. Hold the faith with the government and the health practitioners and our security forces, as all of us are working together with one goal, to help overcome this most deadly and most destabilizing pandemic that the world has ever seen. There is no playbook, and there is no, as it were, situation that we will face in our lifetime that would be of comparable in its own dislocation. I want to say a hearty thank you to all the good citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. Some of them in my book are unsung heroes. And clearly, when those who are better at writing begin to write the chapter and chapters about the valiant efforts of Kittitians and Nevisians to overcome this pandemic, several people will be named. Some too may not find their names recorded, but they deserve of the country's highest commendation and consideration. And tonight I want to devote this program to some of these people. I want, for example, to commend our elderly folks in the senior citizens' home in St. Kitts and on the island of Nevis, those at the Grange facility, the Cardin home, those at Sandy Point and Sadler's senior citizens facilities. We remember them in prayer, and we commend their courage and their strength at this particular moment of difficulty. I want to thank their families too for giving them all of their support, the call from time to time, and the acknowledgement that although there are limits and restrictions and visitations to their homes, the love for them will not vanish. Let me commend Patricia Leader, an outstanding nurse practitioner who has established the Grange which is now one of the most popular facilities for care of the elderly in the Federation. And I commend her for that contribution she's making in the fight to defeat COVID, but also in ensuring that our elderly are given the best care through all seasons. I thank her as I thank the leadership of the Cardin Home, Nurse Patricia Heiliger, who leads that institution, and all others who are showing such kindness and such love for humanity. I want equally to remember at this time those of our inmates in the prisons and who are at this particular moment doing the best that they can under the circumstances. Clearly, after COVID-19, the Team Unity government will deliver a modern prison facility equipped with health facilities, recreational facilities, and space for their own farm and compound. Prisoners are part of our small population, and we are committed as a compassionate government to a second chance program for those who would have paid for their crime. We shall continue over the next 5 years to provide them with counseling, with support and skills so that they can fit into society as responsible and productive individuals after serving their time. They can, of course, become role models again for their children, many of whom might have languished while their father or their mother had been in prisons. And so the government's broad program for the all-inclusive development of St. Kitts and Nevis will ensure that every citizen and every resident is being catered for. I want to commend the broadcasting stations. ZIZ, of course, is #1. Win FM, Sugar City Rock, Freedom, Vaughan, and all the other broadcasting stations and print media in St. Kitts and Nevis, like the St. Kitts and Nevis Observer, have been doing an excellent job in bringing the facts to the people and helping to dispel the fake news that is so often put out by those who have motives not in keeping with the best development of our country. I want to commend entertainers like EK and Sister Sensia and others for using entertainment to bring awareness of this pandemic to the people and encourage them to be disciplined and sober and proactive in their own security and for their own health. I have already commended our front line, but they deserve a second round of commendation for their stellar efforts. Our police officers have been going well beyond the call of duty, as have been the officers at the Immigration Department, the Customs, and of course, all the health workers, more particularly our nurses and doctors. We cannot, of course, forget our churches. I thank the church leadership for their patience, for their faith, and for their reasoning. For faith without reason can be problematic. I want to thank them for their wisdom in helping to give good counseling and advice to their membership, helping them to keep safe during this difficult period. The Chamber of Industry and Commerce, the small business associations, the growing band of entrepreneurs who are finding new prudent lines, seizing opportunities. I name Faustina Wilson of Molyneux, Lynette Bonaparte, and others who are engaged in mask making. But equally, I want to commend some other young persons who are involved in a new form of entertainment, virtual entertainment, and I thank them for this kind of creativity and ingenuity. Of course, I must give a special thank you to my beloved constituents from Bellevue to Atlas for their support at this particular moment in time. and all the well-wishers of the Team Unity movement and my own family. A special mention must, of course, be made for the prayer warriors, both in St. Kitts, in St. Martin, in the U.S. Virgin Islands, in the US of A, in the UK, all over the world, who are interceding for our people and our country. And I encourage them to pray with the faith of Job and, of course, with the courage of Daniel. The operators of the public transport, we will hear perhaps more about this when the Minister of Public Transportation makes his remarks. But I want to hail all the bus operators, including Granny and others, for their positive engagement with the Transportation Board and, of course, with the Minister of Tourism, and to thank all the presidents of the Taxi Association for their contribution, for their ideas, which we will certainly work on. I want to hail King Socrates for the popular song, "This too will pass." And when the dust is settled, we want to ensure that St. Kitts and Nevis would emerge stronger, safer, and better. Everything that my government is doing and has been doing is for the benefit of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, to keep you safe, to ensure that your families are protected, and to ensure that when again the world is ready to be engaged, St. Kitts and Nevis and Dewan will be ready to do business in the new environment, the new world, if you will, which would be created after COVID-19. With those words, by way of introduction, I will later mention some specific other groups in the diaspora, in particular NEVDC and several other organizations which have been advised by Ambassador Thelma Philip Brown, have been very generous in their support to our students in the US of A. I want to commend them, to commend their leaders for the assistance here in St. Kitts we are building and the all of society approach. And it is good news to know that outside of St. Kitts and Nevis, all our various groups, the Sandy Point Association, NEVDC and others, they too are pulling together to assist our citizens in need. With those few words, I want now to invite our Minister of Public Infrastructure, the Honorable Ian Patches Liburd, to bring his opening remarks, and then we will hear from our Deputy Prime Minister. After that, we will open the lines for questions. We ask our callers to limit themselves so that others can have an opportunity. In any event, we ask the callers to be disciplined, no more than 2 calls, and then you could wait for a second turn, allowing others who are on the lines an opportunity to get their calls through. Thank you, Minister Liburd.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister and Chairperson. I want to first say a very pleasant night to all who are listening to this broadcast by whatever means, social media, radio, internet. I want in the process as well to thank Almighty God for giving me or blessing me with the opportunity to be able to, on another occasion, account for my stewardship as a servant of the people. The Ministry of Health continues to carefully find the balance between maintaining a sustainable suppression of transmission of the virus whilst ensuring the resumption of some parts of the economic and social life. And these are the words of the indomitable Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Hazel Laws, that I want to use as my point of departure for tonight. It may be early yet, but it is difficult, no doubt, for any economist because it may take some time. It may take maybe years before the full extent of the economic blow from COVID-19 can be estimated with any confidence. This health crisis has the potential to endanger social, economic, and political stability throughout the global economy, and we cannot lose sight of the fact that we here in St. Kitts and Nevis are part of the global village. Yes. To put my brief presentation into its proper context, I therefore find it imperative to remind us all that although we had no confirmed cases of COVID-19, but rather to help to control the spread of the virus, we as a reasonable cabinet, or as a responsible cabinet, I should say, heeded the advice of the medical and health professionals, or public health professionals of St. Kitts Nevis, and took decisive action to protect our borders, our citizens, our residents, and with effect from March 25, 2020, at 11:59 p.m., we closed our borders to all inbound commercial airline passenger flights. Yes. Just before that, the Cruise Lines International Association, CLIA, or CLIA, announced the suspension of operations to and from U.S. ports for 30 days due to the unprecedented situation of the coronavirus pandemic. For your information, CLIA represents most of the major cruise lines, including Disney, Carnival, Princess Cruises, Norwegian, and Royal Caribbean. As a matter of fact, I recall that prior to that announcement by our cruise line partners, we as a cabinet took the decision not to grant pratique to a cruise vessel which had on board some 650 Italian passengers. International air cargo and cargo by sea is still being allowed entry into our sovereign borders as we speak. And this is in order to maintain the connectivity that enables us to import much needed commodities such as food, fuel, medical supplies, and equipment. So in concert with the world, we here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis are adjusting to the new norm that is taking place as a consequence of a shared global effort to control the spread of the coronavirus, COVID-19. Because as a collective, as a cabinet, during these unprecedented times, our first priority is to protect the health and safety of all our citizens, residents, and visitors alike. The global economy is moving into a prolonged shutdown, and it is becoming increasingly clear that the world is facing a drop in output unprecedented in its breadth and in its intensity. Some analysts predict that the growing economic disruptions are the initial signs of an economic collapse that can be worse than the global financial crisis of 2007 to 2009. But life must go on during and after the shutdown. The government of New Zealand, for example, is looking to fund what it calls large shovel-ready infrastructure projects so as to boost the economy after the COVID-19 lockdown. Here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we do have some ongoing projects, and contractors have been granted permission by Commissioner of Police Hilroy Brandy to resume work during the partial curfew days once they comply with the NEOC COVID-19 health protocols. And these projects include Phase 2 of the Island Main Road resurfacing project. Recall that's a $69 million project. And it engages over 20 truckers at this moment when the work resumes, and some 45 workers. Remember as well, we introduced a special component called the local component, whereby we engage our local subcontractors to do work on the drainage and sidewalks. And at this phase, there are some 9 local subcontractors, and an average of some 72 workers are engaged. The Old Road Fisheries Project, that's a breakwater project, a project costing the government some $6.8 million, is about to resume. And there's some 3,000 tons of 10-ton rocks to be moved for the armoring of that project down there in Old Road. And that tells me, if my mathematics is accurate, that a truck that moves, and most trucks move 10-ton rocks, which means that there's some 300 trips for truckers on this project, to be engaged on this project. The Old Road Bay Rehabilitation Project as well. There are 2-ton rocks, 10-ton rocks, and 20-ton rocks to be moved for that project. As the quarry mining continues for the Old Road Bay Fisheries Project and the Old Road Bay Rehabilitation Project, this costs some $6.8 million. So although the construction industry has not returned to normalcy, and that perhaps may take time given the current risk, our ministry sought to resume work on these projects to help to reduce the economic impact of the lockdown here in St. Kitts and Nevis. In addition, there are also some infrastructure, or to be more specific, village roads improvement projects that are, as I said before, shovel-ready. By that I mean they are all at a stage where workers can now be employed and construction can begin. I speak of the construction of the roads at Harry Phipps and Godwin Gut, which can commence any time now, and the value of this project, I am advised, is approximately $1.6 million. I intend to submit to the Cabinet, having briefed the Prime Minister yesterday, what I call the COVID-19 Emergency Village Roads Infrastructure Stimulus. Roads in Keys South, for example, estimated at $1.4 million to construct, can be split among some 4 subcontractors from the area to carry on our approach to ensuring we engage local contractors, using the same concept as we have on the Island Main Road project. The concept I discussed with Director of Public Works, Kwame Williams, who concurred that the Public Works Department engineers can design, layout, then subcontract to private operators for the cutting, grading, and filling of the roads. When this is done, the concrete works can be subcontracted to a small contractor from the particular area or village and supervised by the engineers. So just imagine some 4 contractors earning an approximately $350,000 and employing from the area in Keys of some 32 workers. This concept of my ministry, as I said, the COVID-19 Emergency Village Roads Infrastructure Stimulus, should be duplicated in Sandy Point in 1 or 2 areas. My colleague and Deputy Prime Minister gave me areas like Rowland Hill, Upper Romney, or Farm Housing Meadows. Before one, though, my deputy and colleague, that Crabhill Heights is a big one. As part of the COVID-19 Emergency Village Roads Infrastructure Stimulus, we can complete the road in Garvey's development, also those roads in the upper part of Shadwell. While in Constituency 3, I recall the last time I was here on Leadership Matters, a lady called about the water sitting on the rail in Boyds, and I'm happy to report that the Public Works Department has found an engineering solution to dispose of that water which settles behind the Bronte Welch Primary School at a cost of approximately $60,000. I must make the point, though, before I move on from the subject of public infrastructure, and in particular roads. In this country, there are over 110 miles stretch of roads here in St. Kitts. And if you take away the 31 or 32 miles for the Island Main Road, then you're left with over 80 miles stretch of secondary roads in Bastia and the villages all around the country. They take money to repair them. In many cases, we recall on entering into office, there were some 70 areas that had not one single road, dirt roads. When we did the estimates just for 25, it was costing over some $69 million. Imagine the remaining 70. In the transportation sector, if I can move to that sector, there are three branches, as I know it, of transport, to wit, air transport, maritime or sea transport, and land or public transport. It was an economist who provided the definition of transport that I always remember, which states that it is the art of moving goods and or services from an area of demand to an area of supply. It stands to reason thus that transport is a derived demand. Demand for cargo ships and air cargo. Demand for ferry services as people move from St. Kitts to and from Nevis. The demand for commuter buses for those who come from DFB via Keon to Basseterre or DFB via Old Road to Basseterre. A demand for taxis when our cruise ships return. So within a similar structure and system as outlined earlier, work has resumed on partial curfew days, again with the permission of Commissioner Brandy, as we strive to complete projects like the R.L. Bradshaw International Airport Taxiway, upland works at Port Zante, and importantly as well, the West Bus Line Terminal. There are also some transport-related projects that are shovel-ready and at a stage where workers can now be employed and construction will begin. I make reference to phase 2 of the traffic signals or traffic lights in Bastia. The equipment are here, but because of the shutdown, the engineers could not be here. We hope that situation will change in the near future. The tender evaluation report for the construction of phase 3 of the East Bus Line Terminal, which will see the construction of shops, restaurants, and a pharmacy, was received by the ministry, and this construction cost will be at $2.6 million. Finally, I want to address the public transport sector, which has been negatively impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. The Ministry of Transport continues to work with bus and taxi operators in both St. Kitts and Nevis with a view towards helping them during this difficult period. The Prime Minister alluded briefly to the Transport Board. The Transport Board comprises of members of both taxi associations, and we have also included the President of the Taxi Co-op, the Bus Line Association presidents, the Commissioner of Police's representative, and an officer from Nevis, also representatives, beg your pardon, from the Ministry of Tourism, to name a few. As our federal government's response continues to develop, we are aware that businesses are facing significant challenges and are in need of assistance to survive. We have made recommendations which are to be considered by the cabinet. These proposals came out of a meeting we convened with the the traffic safety, I should say, the Traffic Safety and Public Service Drivers Board, to be correct. One, that a compassionate grant be provided as relief for loss of income in these difficult and unprecedented times for those bona fide or full-time bus and taxi operators who are not regarded as insured persons by Social Security. Two, that efforts to encourage and provide for the registration of all bona fide or full-time bus and taxi operators post-COVID-19 be supported by the government. Three, that government makes a weekly contribution of a full tank of fuel for a short period to be determined to bona fide or full-time bus operators to help to offset any shortfall in income. Four, that government encourages the lending institutions to waive late fees and suspend loan payments for a period of 6 months in order to assist bus and taxi operators. Five, that the Ministry of Transport introduces certification of all bus operators. Six, that a new policy be introduced to mandate all passengers to provide the exact payment of the appropriate fare on the basis of their final destination. Seven, that the ministry takes necessary actions to prevent operation of coastal buses and taxis on bus routes, and punitive measures be taken against such actions by the driver of a coastal bus, a guided tour bus, and or a taxi. Eight, that government establish an incentive scheme for bus and taxi operations in light of the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic hardships facing the operators. In conclusion, I wish to therefore posit the view that while the economic impact of COVID-19 is yet to be understood, we have to be careful not to be reckless, beg your pardon, like our predecessors. Neither can we, as a government, allow too much red tape to stymie or hinder the progress of our eventual economy. The projects I advanced earlier will help address the country's infrastructure deficit as well as to create jobs. The COVID-19 pandemic has weighed heavily on the government's finances or revenues, with the $120 million stimulus package announced by our distinguished Prime Minister to help workers as the country experiences several weeks of lockdown, and those monies, I'm told, are increasing. I am comforted by the fact, nevertheless, that we have good leaders at the helm, and at all times, but more particular in these unprecedented times, leadership matters. As I close, I want to also end, though, because as it would be remiss of me if I did not thank the good people of East Basseterre who continue to repose their confidence in me. I wish to implore you that in these unprecedented times, we cannot gamble with the future of our beloved Federation. I want to thank you for your understanding and generosity, because even at this time, you are not selfish in East Basseterre. You continue to lend me as a representative. You continue to lend me to the nation, to the country, to execute all the major national infrastructure and transportation projects, and I say thank you very much. My good friend Terry Adams said to me publicly, Patches, one good term deserves another. So I ask you for one more term, just like this one. I will once again surrender half. I will surrender 50% of my salary. Many come to you now, and all of a sudden, They give you a bag of food because elections seem imminent. But I've been giving back to you, to my people, for the last 5 years. I will continue to do so in the next term, because I'm guided at all times by Holy Scripture. Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 1, gives me clear instructions, as it says, "Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days." I also love the book of Proverbs, chapter 19 and verse 17, that gives the assurance that kindness to the poor is a loan to the Lord, and he will repay the lender. Let me just, in closing, thank all, the entire ministry, the Public Works Department, the SCELEC, the Water Services Department, Postal Services, SCASPER, who have been doing a wonderful job. I thank the media as well, ZIZ, and Win FM, Sugar City FM, and others, who have been doing a wonderful job. I thank all the people for their patience, for their tolerance. We are in this thing together. Remember, leadership matters. In everything, we must have good leadership. I thank you.
Thank you very much, and I would now want to invite our Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Shawn Richards, member for St. Christopher 5, to give his opening remarks.
Good evening to everyone. It is my pleasure to be back here once more this week. I think if you have listened intently to my colleagues this evening, you, as an objective person, would of course come to the conclusion that this Team Unity administration has led the Federation very well over the last 5 years. Indeed, as we face the COVID pandemic, leadership matters, and you have been getting nothing but very good leadership from this Team Unity administration. We continue to build upon the programs that we have had in place, programs which have made this country stronger, programs which have afforded this government to be able to respond in a very positive way when the rest of the world is facing the pandemic and not being able to do as much as this Team Unity administration. We have performed and we continue to perform. Such performance can be seen in some of the measures that we have taken as recently as this week, and I wish to speak to a few of them, especially from the Ministry of Education. The government has taken a decision to bring home some 53 students who are currently in Jamaica pursuing studies. The cost to the government for doing so is $75,000 US, or approximately 203,000 EC dollars. The students are due to return home on Thursday of this week. And let me point out that the government is undertaking the full cost of this initiative. Therefore, the students are not required to pay anything towards the cost of this charter flight coming out of Jamaica on Thursday. I should add that it is not only the cost of the charter that the government would have to endure, because the government also has had to find facilities to quarantine these students for 14 days when they arrive on Thursday. There are some persons who have been peddling that the government has abandoned the students in Jamaica and elsewhere. Again, fake news, again, propaganda. The facts would show that about 2 weekends ago, there was a discussion amongst the OECS ministers of education relative to bringing students from out of Jamaica in particular. This was initiated by the Minister of Education from Antigua, and he asked about other governments partnering to do so. He indicated that he is looking at a LEAT charter. I responded indicating that we have some 50 or more students in Jamaica. The end result basically was that if you're looking at a LEAT flight and Antigua moved some 44 students from Antigua and 8 students from Montserrat, a total of 52. You add the next 50-something from St. Kitts, you would recognize that a LEAT flight cannot accommodate that many students. Therefore, we began pursuing negotiations with LEAT since early last week in terms of moving the students from St. Kitts and bringing them back to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Unlike the Antiguan government, which ensured that the students paid something towards the cost of the charter, as I said earlier, this government has not taken that particular position. Of course, having taken that decision, there are a number of persons who have asked the question, what about students coming from other territories where they are also undertaking studies? The fact is that the government is not able to move all of the students for different reasons from where they are. Logistically, it has been easy to move students from out of Jamaica because they are in one territory, and we are able to get LEAT to do so. However, we have offered assistance to those other students studying elsewhere. Today, at the Ministry of Education, we wrote checks to the tune of $83,000 EC. $83,000 to 83 students, which would equate to $1,000 per student. That is a support that we intend to give to those other students over the next 3 months. There are some other checks that we are supposed to be writing, so that at the end of the day, we expect to be providing financial support of some $100 and something thousand to students who are studying elsewhere. The checks will be disbursed on Thursday of this week, as we still need to get a second signature on those checks. Additionally, I want to report that the Ministry of Education and the government have also taken a decision to resume schools meals as of next week, Tuesday. Therefore, students who are in need of a hot lunch will be provided with a lunch as of Tuesday of next week. The Ministry of Education has already put out a PSA asking parents to get in touch with either the teacher, the principal for the school that the child attends, or to visit the schools on Thursday of this week, as we have asked the secretaries to be at each of the primary schools to take the information so that we have an idea as to which students are in need of lunch, and we are also able to map out where in various communities we need to distribute these lunches to our students. We are mindful of the fact that there are also some students in the secondary schools who may be in need of such assistance. Likewise, parents of students attending the secondary schools are asked to get in touch with the principal, the class teacher or form teacher, or the secretary at the school to give the necessary information. Again, the government is ensuring that we continue to secure the future of all of our students here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. As I wrap up my opening remarks, I provide you with the following update. Teacher training continued this week for the delivery of the virtual education that I would have spoken about last week, Tuesday. Yesterday, for example, there was a webinar that I myself was able to log on to, and I found it to be quite interesting. When I got into Bastia yesterday, as I parked on Church Street, I heard someone saying to me, as the person passed in a vehicle, very good webinar discussion this morning in terms of the training of the teachers to provide online education to our students. It was a teacher from the Washington Archibald High School. 900 of the devices that we have ordered for the students arrived on island last week. The additional 900, those were to arrive on island today. And as such, in terms of the online education platform, we are hoping to be able to roll out the start of that sometime during the course of next week. And of course, information will be provided to parents who are in need of the devices for their children as to when those can be collected. And just as important, when the online classes would begin. Again, this Team Unity government has responded very strongly. This Team Unity government has indicated that it is the best government to lead this federation. While others have been panicking, this government has been finding solutions to address the needs of our people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Prime Minister. Actions speak louder than words. And while some have been talking, the Team Unity administration has been working and delivering like no other government in the region has been able to do. We have heard a number of good news being relayed. The fact that the government has taken up $203,000 to bring home our students from Jamaica. We want to do the contrast because the students who came to Antigua, from Antigua, were repatriated there. They had to make a contribution to the cost of their travel. In contrast, in St. Kitts, we have paid the full share of the costs, a generosity unmatched anywhere else. I just want to add that every student and every individual who comes to St. Kitts at this particular moment, while we are facing the pandemic, they will have to undergo 14 days of quarantine. 14 days of quarantine. This is a mandatory requirement. We are all aware that the cases we have had so far have been cases which have been imported into the country by persons who have gone abroad and had come here. That is why keeping our borders closed is an important part of the strategy of reducing the transmission of the virus from one individual to the next. We are encouraging the families and the friends of all these students and others who are coming in to ask them to abide by the rules with respect to the quarantine, and indeed their penalty should there be a breach. We do that for their own safety and for the safety of the larger group of Kittitians and Nivitians and residents here. You note that our government, while this was not part, has broadened the coverage of our stimulus package to provide $83,000 so far to students abroad. While we have been acting, some in their desperation have been talking and talking and talking fake news and wild tales. This is a serious government that understands the seriousness of the time, has been working hard for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis and delivering for you. You have heard the Deputy Prime Minister outline the heavy expenditure we are making to bring online education to our people in St. Kitts and Nevis to help them advance. Few countries in the region are doing what we are doing. And to ensure that the children of the working poor are not left behind to suffer at this point in time. the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Education has proposed and Cabinet has agreed that we shall provide a meal to those students who are now unable to attend school. They will, if there is a need, be able to get a hot meal. This is part of the comprehensive response that my government has brought to a crisis. And it was amazing that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis have taken note. Only 2 days ago, a young lady from St. Paul's reminded me that this is the worst crisis the country has seen, and that the Team Unity administration was performing so incredibly well. She reminded me that a couple of years ago, during the tenure of the former government, when hurricanes would have come, she did not even get a piece of tarpaulin. And she contrasts that to say that she got her roof repaired like over 2,000 other citizens and residents when the last significant hurricane impacted St. Kitts and Nevis. We have a government then that is capable and has proven that it can perform in good times and bad times for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, who we love dearly and who we shall continue with their support to serve. So at this juncture, I want again to thank all of my cabinet colleagues for their wonderful work, their contribution to reassure and assure the citizens and residents that my cabinet is united and focused to delivering that safer, that more healthy St. Kitts and Nevis once we would have defeated COVID-19. At this point, we want to open the lines and invite callers to make a contribution, whether by way of a statement or by posing a question, and of course, to be relatively brief. Do we have a caller online?
Yes, good evening, sir. Honorable Prime Minister, good evening. And Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, good evening. Minister of Public Infrastructure, good evening. I call on the behalf of you all for the good things that you all are doing and will continue to do. Like the lady who called you, she said that she a crisis like this, but the last worst crisis they ever had was the last Prime Minister you all had. And he has done so much wrong things and this thing and continue to pull down things all over the world. Now, they went ahead, they mentioned just now about the prayer warriors and them. And you know, all those people who were protesting down on Church Street, some of them was doctors, some was lawyers, and some was highly educated, very highly educated. But this man now, all class, he said on a talk the other day that they can't find the prayer warriors because they was protesting down Church Street in the white and had the Bible turned upside down. I find that's a great insult to decent citizens who wanted to have something better in their life today. That's why they went to the poll and collected them and bring Team Unity on the map here in St. Kitts. And they're going to do it again in a couple more months to come. They will done it again. So you continue on what you do, Mr. Prime Minister and Mr. Deputy and Minister of Infrastructure. You continue focus on what you are doing. Forget them waste cabbage behind. Let it go over solid waste, already done. Okay, so that's all I have to tell you. God night, God bless you, God bless the cabinet, and God bless the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Thank you. God bless you. God bless you. Do we have another call?
Night,
Good night.
Good night, Mr. PM.
Good night to you
You
online.
know, meet the girl in Jericho from our old sister from St. Paul, from all over the Jericho, little girl. I spoke to you several times.
Yeah.
Well, we went overseas from March and so, from New York. How come they can't get back in upstate now either?
Can't get no.
To come back in from the States, and they went since about February or March. For the States, for holidays. And how come they can't come back in and the flight can come back in from Jamaica to bring back in people, students? What about them again and them time? How come they can't get back in?
Thank you for the question. The Minister of Public Infrastructure and Transport will deal with that. We will take a number of questions and then we will answer all. But thank you for calling in and listen. A little while you'll get a response. Thank you. Do we have another call online? Yes, caller.
Hello, good night, Mr. PM.
Good night.
I have a question. Directly to you.
Yes.
I'm a person who got laid off, and so I was wondering. I got laid off for 3 months, and I was wondering, in the event the 3 months up, and they didn't call me back. The law is after claiming for severance. It is 3 months, but I'm home for 3 months not working. So I was just wondering, after the 3 months up, you can put something in place where we can get the money as soon as possible before the 3 months, knowing that I'm not working. I'll listen after you.
Thank you for that call.
Hello.
Yes, caller.
Good night.
Good night.
The people them who sending the paper with the 24th, they ain't getting the money yet.
Sending the papers to where?
The Labor Department.
Okay. Where were you working, or where were those people working?
Javo.
Okay.
Javo.
Thank you. We will have an answer for you in a few minutes. Yes, do we have another caller?
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Yes, Prime Minister. I am Dr. James Charles Julius. And good night to all.
Good night, Doc.
To you and to the Deputy Prime Minister and to the Honorable Ian Patrick Liburd. Indeed, leadership matters. Ministers and senators of the Team Unity Administration, you are all leaders. Since you are the head of various ministries in the government, you have each been doing a fantastic, a very good, an awesome job. The Honorable Mark Grantley, Premier of Nevis, is the lead minister of government on the island of Nevis, while the Honorable Timothy Harris is the Prime Minister of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And you all, including the other ministers, have been doing a fantastic, very good job. Now, so, to each minister in the Team Unity Administration, and to each minister in the Nevis Island Administration, please continue to do a fabulous, a fantastic, and a fascinating job. First, for the people living in the district that you represent, and to the Federation at large. We look forward to having Senator Akila Byron Nisbet on board as the Minister of Government. The Honorable Senator Akila Byron Nisbet has been doing a fantastic, a very good job. Therefore, Ministers of the Chief Unity Administration, please continue working and please continue walking along the path of excellence. May God continue to bless you, and may God continue to bless the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for that call. And we will, at this time, take one last call, and then we will have answers to the question posed. Just by way of notice, for you to call, I am advised 466-2666 is the number. 466-2666. You can call to get onto leadership matters. Leadership with you and leadership for you. Yes, caller.
Good night, Leadership Matter. We just want to say good night to the Honorable Prime Minister. You're looking very healthy and strong. And to the Deputy Shawn, Richards, I know you're a strong man and you keep going. Mr. Prime Minister, very quickly, I just want to say that what you're doing, continue to work. You have a task force out right now, checking all of the businesses that you have given permission to open. And then after, if they continue, if they so break the rules and regulations set forth, right, then they can either be charged 5,000, 6 months imprisonment, or both the business can be closed down. What I want to tell you is that remember you're giving the people a chance and want to encourage people to continue to abide by the rules. The Prime Minister is looking after you. You want to be open. He's saying open, but follow these guidelines. I see Liburd Bay. I see some cones being placed there. It seems as though they're getting ready to pave the road. I want to thank you for that. Right? I haven't seen much work done by the fishery, you know, but in terms of those capital projects, keep up the good work. We want to see more of you in this country. And Mr. Richards, thank you for looking out for the children. They're now going to have a meal. Many persons will be very happy in this hard time that some of them are not working to get a meal. Keep up the good work and be safe. We are behind you.
Thank you very much. Minister Liburd, would you want to take that question regarding, or the deputy, the caller who spoke about persons not being able to get back and why those from Jamaica could get in? We had the caller who spoke to the severance matter, and then the Java worker, and then we have had Dr. Charles Julius, and then we have Bucky got it. So it's either of you can feel free to take any of the questions and provide an answer.
Well, from the perspective of the airline's availability, I am not aware if there are any flights, or I'm not aware of any flights, rather, that are coming from the United States of America. I am aware that American Airlines at some time had indicated via their website that they were going to put on a flight for April, beg your pardon, for May, sorry, May. That was based on the NOTAM that was issued. The first NOTAM was issued that the airport would be closed until 7th of April, and on that premise they did. But my understanding is that American would look at their flights for next month, June. We haven't heard from the other airlines, but notwithstanding that, though, it does not necessarily say that the airport will be open, well, unless there's some special charters. And charters from the U.S. will be very exorbitant. I don't know if the government can afford that cost. You know, the Deputy Prime Minister just alluded to the $1,000 per student from Jamaica. Imagine coming from the United States. So, but in a nutshell, the airlines have not listed any flights coming out of the U.S. None of the airlines, period.
Thank you. United States, like almost every other country, has closed its borders, and therefore it will not be easy for anyone there to get out. What is advisable is that they do their utmost to keep safe wherever they are. Respect the rules that are in place to keep them safe, and as it were, to bunker down and wait until the borders are open again. Keep praying, hope for the best, but at this particular moment in time, all over the world, there's a significant reduction in travel. In fact, the regular passenger travel is literally at a standstill. Countries are now hoping to open up at some time in the future, but all of that is guesswork, because every day and any day the situation can change, and that will determine whether or not borders are open up. For the immediate future, there is no indication that the borders will open. So that is the situation with respect to that. Jamaica was a particular exception. The Deputy Prime Minister explained that and how the government had moved, notwithstanding that difficulty, to bring some relief, which I know the students appreciate, their parents and well-wishers appreciate, that this government is doing for them what no other government has done yet so far for their own, in terms of the number of students and the quantum of expenditure we have put in this program. We had the question to do with the severance payment. Do you want to address that, Deputy?
The question relative to the severance payment is an interesting one. And I think the caller asks whether or not those persons can be paid before the 3 months. Legally, severance payment would not be made before that particular time, because in order for one to get severance, the person needs a letter from the particular employer indicating that the position has been made redundant. If there's no letter indicating that the position has been made redundant, then legally that person isn't entitled to severance payment. What I would say to the caller, though, is that the government has offered a package to persons whose employment hours have been affected. Those persons are able to apply to Social Security. Those persons are able to apply for the $500 monthly assistance if they meet the criteria for the program. If it is that I've misunderstood the person in terms of what the person was trying to explain, then the person, of course, is free to call back and provide some clarity with reference to the question. Even making a payment to someone in advance becomes difficult, because if you're going to make a payment to someone based on an assumption, what happens if the facts are to change after? Do you go to the individual and say you're required to pay back the money because circumstances are indeed not what one expected or what one would have envisioned circumstances to be? Therefore, I think the Labor Department has to work within the ambit of the law in making severance payment monies available to persons.
Thank you very much. With respect to the JARO worker, if you were to send a WhatsApp, I certainly can ask a question with respect to your delay in payment. What I would say is that as of last Friday, I think it was, over 2,000 applications were received by the Social Security from entities that had workers who were displaced and or self-employed persons, and about 80% of them were processed and already paid. Payment, of course, will continue throughout the course of the week. Two modes of payment are taking place. One, most of the persons, and we encourage all to do so, would have provided the Labor Department and by extension Social Security with their bank account numbers, and those who have been processed, they should see the difference into their account. This is for the $1,000 maximum support by the Social Security Board to workers who would have either been laid off or had substantially reduced income as a result of the pandemic. And so those payments continue each day. The list is added to, and more persons are being processed. So we encourage you to pay attention to that. If you have not yet had, you can make a call to Social Security. My recollection of their number is 465-2535 and ask a question. But about 80% of the applications received have already been processed. And feel free then to make an inquiry at Social Security. I will also ask you, you can send your name and other information to this cell number 661-1136, and that particular person will then contact you, get further details, and make inquiry of the Labor Department, and if necessary, the Social Security, and advise you. 661-1136. That cell phone number will also provide you with some support. Thank you for your call. We want to thank Dr. Charles Julius for his excellent commendation of the work of the government as a whole, for his commendation of the outstanding work that is being done by Senator Akila Byron Nisbet for the people of West Barstow and for the country of large. Ms. Byron Nisbet is an outstanding citizen, ready and able to serve. And we are confident that at the appropriate time, the people of West Barstow will give her good support, and the strongest support as their new Member of Parliament. I want to open the phone line and to receive other calls. Caller, you're on the air.
A pleasant good evening. My Prime Minister, the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Timothy Harris.
Good evening.
Sir, I just want to commend you tonight on the job that you are doing for this country on whole. You know, when I reflect back on the past regime, the past Labour government, there was in for 20 years. I'm around a long time, so I'm a lady that's involved in politics for a long time. They're around for 20 years. They haven't done what you did and what you are doing. You have done so many things for this country. And you know, sometimes when I listen to you on the radio and I look at you and I know what you're doing, you know, sometimes tears fall from my eye. Prime Minister, you are such a good man with a good heart. You are the man for the poor people. You do everything. You fix the road, you fix the roof. Look at the last two major thing what I could say that you did. It's the $500 and the $1,000 that you put in poor people's pockets and have people can smile through right now. A lady tell me, girl, if I didn't know that is so good, you Prime Minister, how it is. She would have done jump on board the team unity chain long time. But as a girl, better late than never. Come on board the team unity chain. PM, you is a man that uphold the team unity government without fear and favor. You help everybody. You help Parliament, you help Labour, you help PLP, you help NRP, you help CCM, you help everybody. You're not picking out. And my prayer for you tonight is for you to go from strength to strength. And whenever God sees fit for you to call the election, don't be in a rush with nobody. Don't let nobody say this and that. And you take your time. Whenever God put it in you, because I know you're a God-fearing man. And whenever God put it in you, you will call the election. Don't rush. Take your time and make sure that this federation is healthy before you call the election, because I am not going out in the line right now to vote, because I'm going to secure my health first. So I don't want you to worry with nothing and let nobody saying, oh, you got this until this to dissolve Parliament and this and that. Take your time. And I want to say to you, continue doing the good work, because God is taking note of what you are doing, not man, God, and He's going to return you right back to government headquarters whenever the time comes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Marcia. Much appreciated. Do we have another caller in line?
Good night to the Honorable Prime Minister. Good night.
Good night. You're on Leadership Matters. Welcome.
Yeah, good night to the Honorable Shawn Richard.
Good evening.
And good night to the Honorable Ian Pattis Liburd. Good night. Leadership Matters. Now, I want to commend the Team Unity government. You all are doing a wonderful job. And I will continue to say that. Just like the sisters were just gone there. Now, Mr. Prime Minister,
Yes.
we in a world crisis with this deadly corona. And you all is showing you all endeavor best to see what you all can done for the people of this country with the CMO and the team, Mr. Prime Minister. And we all kind of negative comment out there from some of them who was with Team Unity, saying all kind of things. But Mr. Prime Minister, you all will succeed, and this country will succeed. Because let me tell you something. I always say that when I look out at the outer wall and I see what's going on out there, not ill say some of the leaders them out there know what to do. They don't know what to do to keep this corona quiet. And you think it's a little small country, and you are doing so much cases are testing. We don't test so much case. And we got to forward that. Now, Mr. Prime Minister, again, when I hear tonight that you are to send for them students, you know, and send money for those students who out there to help them. Mr. Prime Minister, that's why I went on the program today to contribute something to the infirmary. And I said, please, that anybody who loves the country in the crisis that we're into now, who come and contribute, yeah, it must be big. Mr. Prime Minister, yeah, it must be big. Because those same parents out there, I'm sure some of them got children out there, and they could go and contribute something too, because some of them could afford it. Because every time you open the country to shop, you see the line full of people. You understand? And the negative one, them out there saying, oh, no money in the country, no money, there's no money, there's nobody has no money. But you all continue to do a good job, Mr. Prime Minister, and applauding you and your team for what you're doing in this federation. And the ordinary man and woman in this federation of Think It News. God bless you. Have a wonderful night. God bless.
Thank you very much, Mr. Politics. We appreciate your call. Thank you for keeping the faith. We have another caller online.
Hello, good evening.
Leadership Matters caller.
Gentlemen there, as I said, my name is Shawn Madhouse Islaliwana from constituency number 5. I want to personally congratulate the Unity government on what they have been doing with respect to the COVID-19. Mr. Prime Minister, I do not want the Chief Unity government to be sidetracked by the negativity that is being placed out there. You have been doing a great job. The idea of you had to close the borders at the time when you did makes a lot of sense. Bringing back the students, even better, sir. I want the Unity government to continue on this path, and I pray that you guys will return, and when you return, as a matter of fact, you all are going to do better for the people of St. Kitts Nevis and for those persons in the diaspora. Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Richard, and Mr. Liburd. As a matter of fact, and the whole Unity cabinet. Have a great evening, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Charlene. We appreciate your taking the time to call. We have another caller online. Leadership Matters.
My dear Prime Minister.
Yes, sir.
Good night. Good night, dear Prime Minister. I just want to call in and let you know that you're doing a great job. You cannot please everybody.
Thank you.
God is on your side.
Thank you.
Yes, so take point. I just want to let you know that the old road Kittery needs fixing badly. The water is coming up. So let somebody go and check it.
We will do that. The Minister of Public Infrastructure has taken note of that issue. Thank you very much. We have another caller online.
Hello.
Yes, Leadership Matters. Thank you for calling.
Good evening, Mr. Prime Minister.
Good evening.
Good evening, the Honorable Shawn Richards and the Honorable Patrick Liburd.
Good evening.
Yeah, Claudia's Chinese thumbs. Now, Mr. Prime Minister, I want to commend the entire Unity team for a great and a very good job that they've been doing in keeping the country, St. Kitts and Nevis, safe from this pandemic disease. Now, Mr. PM, I also want to commend the Honorable Shawn Richards. Tonight when he spoke about these hot lunches for the schools and so on, for the school children and so on, it touched my heart. Because I know it's going to go a long way and it'll benefit a lot of parents and children outside here, right? And I think that's a very good idea. And I want to commend him highly and the government for such a great idea. Mr. PM, in closing, I want to single out the CMO, Dr. Lord, because she has been doing a very, very good job, right? But there are some people right out there, a clique of doctors and other people are trying to criticize the good lady, trying to criticize the good doctor and to bring her down, right? I want to say to the good doctor to stay focused, stay strong, because we have your back and God is on your side. And I want to say to the critics out there, the clique of critics, the doctors and the rest of them, criticizing the good doctor, I want to say to them, leave the damn doctor, she in trouble are you. And I want to end by saying, the doctor is a very good doctor, and if it wasn't for her and she a good team that she's leading, we'd have been in problems here in this country, Mr. PM. Thank you very much, good night, and safe journey back home. Thank you.
Thank you very much for calling. Thank you. We will allow the panel to have an opportunity to respond. We will ask the Deputy to respond, followed by the Minister of Public Infrastructure, and then I will respond or add to any of the issues that had been raised. Again, the number to call for this particular program, if you want to extend a word of commendation, ask any questions, seek clarity, make a contribution to the conversation, you can call 466-2666. I've been asked if this is the only number, so could one of the technicians from ZIZ kindly indicate. The number to call at this time is landline 466-2666. And I shall ask that when persons call in, they are reminded to turn down the volumes on their radio and television, because that creates some feedback and make it difficult for one to hear clearly. Again, the number is 466-2666. Deputy Prime Minister, followed by Patches, will take a turn at the questions.
Thanks to all of the callers who gave commendations to the government. As I said in my opening remarks, any objective individual will come to the conclusion that the government has been doing an excellent job, and the callers have all agreed thus far. Yes, the Ministry of Education continues to respond to the needs of our students. And interestingly, even as I'm here sitting, someone messaged me to ask, well, what about those children who are attending our early childhood institutions? Excellent question. If they are students in the early childhood institutions who are in need of the support for schools meals, those parents are asked to contact the nearest primary school in the community in which the child lives, and the Ministry of Education will respond to those requests. It is not our intention to leave any child behind. All of our children will be given the necessary support so much as we are able to do so. The caller who indicated that the government is doing an excellent job, but she doesn't intend to go out to vote while we are in the midst of a pandemic. I certainly can understand her concerns. Our first order of business is to ensure that we have a healthy nation, that we have a safe nation, and that is precisely what the government is concentrating on doing, to ensure that our citizens are healthy. If our citizens are not healthy, they are not able to participate in the voting process, and the government will not be able to provide the sort of outreach that we are doing if our citizens are not able to go out and be productive individuals at the end of the day. We will continue to respond to the needs of our citizens first and foremost. The Prime Minister has said several times that for him, election is on the back burner, as his main concentration is ensuring that we are in the best possible state. The comment about the CMO, indeed, the CMO has performed extremely well. I have had several interactions with her, and despite her busy schedule, it is amazing how she has been able to multitask in such a way and to be able to bring that level of leadership to the medical profession. I have been speaking to her in particular recently about the students returning home from Jamaica. Tomorrow morning, for example, she has indicated to me that it is her desire to have a Zoom meeting with the students in Jamaica to discuss certain protocols with them, not just for when they arrive in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, but even as they board the plane on Thursday to return to the Federation. So for her, it is ensuring that as best as possible that they're able, while traveling to St. Kitts and Nevis, to remain as safe as possible and to practice certain protocols. She has indicated that she also has a meeting with the parents of those students is scheduled for tomorrow also. In advance of the students coming in from Jamaica, she and her team were able to provide me with the quarantine forms to send off to the students. A majority of the students have signed the quarantine forms thus far, so that in terms of expectations, the students know that they will be put into quarantine for a 14-day period while they are here in the Federation. Some students have asked about the availability of Wi-Fi at the different places that they will be staying because they have exams to undertake while they are in quarantine. And I want to say a very special thank you to the Nevis Island administration and also for the COVID-19 task force here, in particular the Attorney General and all other persons for ensuring that indeed Wi-Fi is available so that the students can continue their education while they're here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Thank you. Honorable Patrice Liburd.
Show the level of interest in projects that we are undertaking, like that lady did, and provides the oversight and keeps us really on our toes. I want to assure that lady, though, and the country that the designs and layout for the road is complete. The grading is done, and I was there myself on Friday last week, and in speaking with the contractor, there's some levels to be done to the eastern portion on that road. As I was there as well, and you will notice from day to day, the heavy rocks, the 20-ton rocks, which are the rocks to protect the road itself and the work that has been done for what's called the revetment and protection, they are being moved as we speak. So the road is at a stage right now whereby it's about to be paved eventually. And yes, we are concerned about the upcoming hurricane season, which starts, I believe, next month, June officially. And so a month after next rather, June the 1st is the official start of the hurricane season. But we are optimistic based on the prognosis that's been done that although it's hard to predict the weather and the seas, although man has conquered above the skies, man have not been ready to conquer below the seas. But we are optimistic that the stage of protection is well enough, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that in the event of any 100-year cycle storm now, we will be able to have the project protected, not to its fullest, but protected enough to save the work that has already been done. In relation to an earlier comment by someone in relation to the Fishes Breakwater project, as I intimated earlier, the Commissioner of Police have been highly cooperative in ensuring that we can get our projects moving, especially before the hurricane season, those that are at this stage. I am aware that the contractor has not submitted his schedule to the consultants as yet, and as soon as that is done and he submit the names, I'm sure that the Commissioner of Police would grant permission for them to work during the partial curfew days. But again, all will be the status the current disposition of the work staying in Old Road Bay is not fully protected, but we are hoping for the best. With the protection that we have there, we find it adequate to withstand any storms that are due.
Thank you. And we go back to line. The number to call again is 466-2666. We ask those callers to be patient. I know a number have said that they are trying to get in. We will try and improve upon the number of lines. We want to thank you for being patient. Caller, you're on Leadership Matters. Thanks for calling. Good night, caller. Could you speak up?
Good night to the ministers at the head table, and to you, my wonderful Prime Minister. God sent, you make history. Other country envy you. It was not an overthrow. Thank you for what you have been doing for the past years and what you're doing now to keep us safe. It was the last 6 months or a year. Big country having their election in their crisis, yes. We have to keep our small country safe first. Won't rush. Hurricane soon. You will still have another task. You're doing a very good job. You don't have the people's money in no briefcase. You see what you're doing with it. You must set tasks and don't follow nobody who can't help them. You ain't bad since you're born. We have you there. Your safety at home is safe. So when it's time to remember you have to only be here.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alice. We appreciate the call. Thank you very much. We have another caller online.
Good night.
Good night. Yes.
One of them is, you remember,
Yeah. Yes.
and then you had one of them named back. And the died because of the pandemic. And I have to commend you because it was about on time. And I'm not saying that you want no death here. I'm praying. So keep on doing the good work that you're doing. And I have a question here. I would like to know if I know hurricane is coming out. The hurricane is coming out. Y'all are doing a program 15 roofs. I filled out the form. From the time we started, I filled out the form. And up until this 24 minutes, my house wasn't fixed up yet. And then we said, I'm sorry, I'm a Catholic, I say, absolutely. And then the last thing told me that they said I'm a Catholic. I said, well, if my house was fixed, why would I be calling you?
Okay. Thank you very much. And I will ask you, after we would have completed, to contact this number, 661-1136, 661-1136, and you'll give your name and particulars with respect to the situation with your house. We have another caller online.
Regarding the laptop for the student, she has a son and she wants to know how can she register to get one of the laptops for her son because she needs it for his work. And on the other hand, she wants to know if the students own the laptops at the end of the exercise or they'll have to be returned to the Ministry of Education. I'll listen off here. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek Fritz. I was going to put the next caller, please. We have another caller.
Good evening. Nice program.
Thank you very
so
much.
Strong. So proud of you guys. I gave you a job to do, and you are doing it to the best. God bless Team Unity.
Thank you. We have another caller online.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Yes, good night, Mr. Prime Minister. To my good friend Patches, the tongue man, and to Minister Shawn.
Good evening.
Hello. Good evening to everybody there. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we are.
Yes, okay. I just need to say something here, and I have to read it on Facebook there. Sometimes one got to be very careful when you read on Facebook, eh? And there was a lot of noise about the government abandon the students in Jamaica. Well, about a week and a half ago, I called one of my friends there, and I said to them, you're not coming home. And they said to me that the government is trying to get them home. I said, the government? I thought they said they had abandoned your house. He said, no, the government is trying to get us home. So I'm now being told that they're coming home on Thursday. So kudos to the government for that. The next issue I need to touch on is I heard the Prime Minister said some weeks ago, when we were just getting to the heat of the COVID-19, that he's going to look after the frontline workers. I did hear him say that. He's going to look after them. And then to hear people now pushing, as I listened today, to a letter, something was written to Dr. Cameron, and one is giving the impression that, you know, the government these people working so hard and the government is going to abandon them. But I heard the Prime Minister said earlier that he's going to look after those people, the frontline workers. So, you know, like I said, sometimes when you hear things, you just need to put them aside and just look at them as a bunch of people who can't wait to get into power. That is just my tidbit there. But like I said, this particular one, I heard the Prime Minister said that he's going to look after them. Look after them in what way? I really don't know. All he said that he was going to look after them. So thank you very much, Prime Minister, for your time. And you all are doing good. Good job.
Thank you very much, caller. We have another caller online, and then we will do some response.
Hello?
Yes, caller.
Good night. This is for Shawn. I would like to know if the government giving any assistance to the private schools, them like Mauritia and the different schools like Factory School and the different schools, what is the assistance that the government is giving to those schools and the students? Please, thank you. Bye. Have a good night. Long live the Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, dear. I just want to quickly say thanks to the callers for the commendations extended. We have always said that we will do the very best that we can for all of our people, irrespective of where they are. We are the only government to date in the region that has undertaken the burden of repatriating students. We have done so far, made commitment of over $200,000. That's a lot of money. We have, you have heard already, written checks of $83,000 of assistance to those who are abroad and have indicated their needs. So we are doing as best we can, and we shall continue to do so. But we are only able to bring this kind of support because we have managed the country well. Had this government squandered, we would have been waiting on the IMF for bailout while our people are suffering. Let us not take for granted the transformation in the economic and the fiscal affairs of the country, which our administration has been able to do in the short period of 5 years. This is not the first time the country has faced challenges. The first pandemic for this century, and the best performance we have seen from any government, not just in the region, but beyond. Thanks to the hard work of the Team Unity administration. We have said that we will look after the nurses, the doctors, those at NEMA, the police, the immigration, all of the frontline people. This is not the time to get sidetracked. This is the time for every citizen and resident to rise to the call of duty. And I was so impressed when Dr. Cameron Wilkerson a few days ago spoke to this matter at one of the NEOC's briefing that I attended. And he said, yes, if the government gives something extra, those at the front lines will be happy. But right now, that is not a priority for us. Right now, we are so committed and devoted to our job. We are so much consumed in ensuring that we, the doctors and nurses, whose first duty is to care for people and to prevent the loss of lives. That is what the doctors and that is what the nurses are committed to do and are happy to be able to do that work with the support and commitment of the government. At the appropriate time, we will engage in that particular matter. Our word is our bond. When we promised the sugar workers who were not paid any monies when the industry closed in 2005, 968 persons benefited. We said that something was wrong with that. For an industry with over 5,000 employees, only 968 beneficiaries. We were able to deal with that. $17.5 million paid out. And we were able to do thousands of beneficiaries, bringing relief to so many former sugar workers and or their families as a consequence of that. After we had the hurricanes in 2017, we did what no other government in living memory of St. Kitts and Nevis had been able to do. We went through every nook and cranny, and provided support to over 2,500 families, never before done. Our word and our commitment to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis is our bond. What we say we will do for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And we say that we will stand with the frontline workers. We have stood by them in the past and we will continue to do so. We appreciate their service, and at the appropriate time, we will settle the indebtedness due to them. But at this time, let us all be focused. So I commend again all those at the NEOC who have been doing an excellent job, and all those who go every day doing their duty. And we have to contrast what is happening here with what is happening in the rest of the world. In St. Lucia just the other day, the government was saying to civil servants, we are not going to be able, the country's revenue does not allow us to consider continuing to pay you cash. It does not, and therefore we will be introducing bond payment, a form of IOU, if you will. Some cash and some you will have at a future date, some debt instrument to you. We have heard from the government of Antigua that the cash flows are down and that there may perhaps be difficulty in meeting payments. When all this is happening around the world, how could some people, just for politics, seek to distract the workers of the government, many of whom are home now getting paid, and they are at home because we are supporting the stay-in-shelter policy? How could any politician who is serious about national development be speaking now about making payments at this moment in time, when every day the range of commitments that we have to do for the victims of COVID-19, that range keeps enlarging. The people now sound and fury, and that is what we are having from the opposition. Sound and fury as they attempt, as it were, to get attention and to fool and mislead people. The people can trust the government based on its performance, based on its action, and we will do the right thing for all the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. So that is what I want to say with respect to the finances. I will now allow the other ministers to respond to any of the other questions posed. Say if I got one question through WhatsApp about the landlords, and I want to make the appeal that I made on Win Radio, Win FM, and prior to that, perhaps in this radio station, for all the landlords in the country to use their conscience. This must be an opportunity for shared sacrifices. They and some of them will be benefiting from a moratorium on their mortgage payments from the banks of up to 6 months. Moratorium on principal, moratorium on interest. And we are saying in this time of difficulty, particularly when your tenants would have been displaced, would have lost income, the very least you can do is to give them a break for a while. And we are asking, and I am asking, for all the landlords to give some consideration to that. The government has given relief from water bills, from electricity bills, from taxes. We have dropped the taxes for those unincorporated business by 50% for the particular period. We have dropped the corporation tax from 33% to, I think it is 25%, a decrease of about 33%. So everyone can really do the best they can to help a brother or sister at this particular time when all of us are in crisis. At the same time, I also want to appeal to the conscience of those who are involved in the wholesale and retail trade to watch their price movement. Watch the price movement. The government will not allow people to burden the poor people by taking advantage of the crisis to the disadvantage of the poor among us. Again, retailers and wholesalers, we ask, we know that in some cases there are movement because some products are scarce, but we are getting some feedback that there may be deliberate action. And so we are asking, kindly watch the price markups and the price movements. It is a time of global suffering, and it will not be fair if it were found to be true that persons are manipulating the prices to the disadvantage of the poor. A word to the wise is enough. Minister Liburd, would you want to respond to any of those issues that have come? If not, we will invite Minister of Education to deal with the laptop matter raised by Derek Freights and the assistance to the private schools.
All I'll just add, if I may, Prime Minister, is that I think we ought to sensitize ourselves as a country and as a people that in these times our revenue generation and collection will be reduced.
Yes.
And everything, every single cent that's been touted in the stimulus package comes from revenue.
Yes.
And you always speak about the fiscal prudence, the surplus. Lots of people ask me where we are getting this money from to do all these projects. These monies, every single project we have done, save and except the project that's funded or grant funded by the Republic of China and Taiwan. All the others have come from revenue. And it's no secret. It comes from the fact that as you normally say, you save for a rainy day. That's what our grandparents used to tell us. The economists of today call it fiscal prudence. So people ought to be sensitized and sensitize others as well, that these monies are not picked off a tree, and we don't have an infinite source of revenue. So I want us to understand and be patient with the government. We are doing and we are taking and showing that people matter, and that's why the PAP was introduced, that's why the roof program was introduced, and that's why now, even though in these challenging times, we have found money for the farmers, we have found some $50 million to subsidize the loss of earnings for some people. And I think we have hope, and because this leadership is like none other.
Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you. I begin by reading a comment sent to me by a parent, and she has consented to having her name being called. Her name is Susie Liburd. And this is the message that she sent to me just a few minutes ago. Thank you very much, Minister Richards. I have a son in university in the USA, and my business is closed for now. But I am so happy for what you all are doing for them, giving that $1,000. It makes my burden lighter, knowing that my son is receiving some help. Thanks again, a very grateful parent. God bless Unity. And for those who may not know, I don't think she minds, the name of her son is Travis Bell, and I know for a fact that I would have seen his application today. To the persons with questions which were posed to me regarding the laptops, how can a parent register to get one for her son? I've said on numerous occasions that before the closure of schools, a survey was completed at all of the schools. Students were asked whether or not they have access to a device. For those students who indicated that there is no access, the Ministry of Education will provide a tablet for those students to use. Additionally, the Ministry of Education will also be paying for internet service for all households without internet service for a 3-month period. The devices, the tablets, will not become the property of the students. Those devices will be loaned to the students who are utilizing them. There's a caller who spoke to the fake news that we have abandoned the students. However, he stated that he was able to speak to a student who said that indeed that is fake, it is propaganda. The propagandists, they are out there and trying to make the very best of the situation in terms of confusing persons and trying to look his sympathy. I do believe that perhaps they were aware of the fact that the government had been making arrangements to move the students from out of Jamaica, and so in an effort to take credit, of course, they put out a story saying that the government has abandoned the students, for persons to feel that maybe it is because they have said something that that particular decision was taken. However, as I said earlier, the facts are there for all to see, that long before that article came out, we were already in negotiations with LIAT to move the students from out of Jamaica. And I can speak factually because I am the one who has been leading that particular effort in terms of the communications back and forth with LIAT, the communications with the president of the Student Association in Jamaica, etc. And I want to say a very special thank you to that young lady, Jaida Sutton, because she has been doing an excellent job in terms of responding and in terms of feeding the information back and forth to the students. She, as a student, certainly has demonstrated her leadership, and again, the Ministry of Education and the government is thankful for what she has done thus far. The private schools have also been offered assistance. Again, when the survey was undertaken, the private schools were included so that students at the private schools will be able to benefit from the particular program. Let me make it clear that all students who are in need of lunch, I am asking that the parents register the name of the child with the closest primary school or secondary school. We intend to provide to as many students as we're able to. I suppose it may not be all students which would be in need of such, but because all students will not be in need, certainly in terms of capacity, we may not be operating at full capacity, but we're trying to cater for all of the students. It is important to note that a number of parents are currently out of work, and so if they're able to stretch food longer because the government is providing a meal for children, then I think parents will be appreciative of that effort. I've seen a number of comments on Facebook, for example, with persons of all different political persuasions saying that the government must be commended for this particular effort. And so I want to thank persons for sending the feedback to the government. There may be some kinks in terms of working out the program. For example, we have to come up with different locations within the different communities for the students or the parents to be able to collect the lunch on behalf of the students. But I am sure that as the days go by, we will be able to work out whatever kinks that may arise during the distribution process. Finally, and I don't know if I can say it enough times, that this is a government which has been responding to the needs of our people. It is a government which has been fiscally prudent, and it is because we have been fiscally prudent we have been able to give as much as we're able to give to our people. If we had squandered the financial resources of the country, we would not have been able to do so. When I reached out to the financial secretary in terms of providing the assistance for the charter, her response wasn't that the government cannot afford to do so. Her response was the ministry needs to send the necessary documentation so that the Ministry of Finance can provide the funds. And by the following day, indeed, we received the funds from the Ministry of Finance, and Liat can say to anyone that the government has already paid the bill of some $203,000 for this charter coming out of Jamaica. As I said earlier, today again, we wrote checks to the sum of $83,000. Checks which, when they are taken to the bank, they will be cash because the money is there to cover those checks. That is a government that has been providing leadership. As Patrick said, one person said to him, one good term deserves a next. And indeed, this government has done a significant job during the first term. This government deserves more than a next term in government.
Thank you very much, Deputy. I just want very quickly to read something from Washington, D.C., and to thank Eventon Elliott for drawing to my attention. I want to congratulate the Nivision Association of Washington, D.C., NEV-DC, which has contributed US $5,200 to Nivision students at Midwestern State University in Texas. With school and state closures due to the COVID-19, the students, he said, were no longer able to work and earn an income to sustain their lifestyle at school. The call went out to NEV-DC members, and in a short time, they raised $2,700. The organization then added a further $2,500 for a pool fund of $5,200. And these are being distributed to the Nivision students there. So again, we have seen that our students are being helped by our nationals abroad, and we want to commend them for the effort, for their solidarity at this time of difficulty. I want also to recognize a number of associations whom our ambassador, Her Excellency Dr. Thelma Philip Brown, has indicated to me were very helpful in providing support to our students. So our students overseas have never been abandoned by their government and never will be. And they have never been abandoned also by our citizens and well-wishers. Apart from NEV-DC, other institutions or organizations that have made commitment for support are the St. Kitts and Nevis Association of DC, the Sandy Point Benevolent Society, the Green Valley Global Inc., the St. Kitts Nevis Association of Florida, the Nevis Association of South Florida, the Caribbean Cultural Coalition, and the Children of the Caribbean. There are several other individuals who have made contributions or have pledged to do so. I want to make special mention of the Ruth Liburd Foundation, which had started to solicit funds on Facebook, and all others for their support. There is the Rosie Hodge and the Dr. Arthur Martin Foundation. They have basically also been supportive of these efforts. And then we have Melvina Chapman in Texas, a good friend and a good patriot, who I gather has also been very helpful in ensuring that our students are not left behind. My heart goes out to all who have responded so generously, and we hope that that love for country will continue. Again, we want to wrap up, but we will take 2 more calls, and then we definitely will wrap up. We will allow 2 more calls, and after that, we will have the closing remarks by the members of the panel. We want to commend one person who called as a landlord and indicated in response to the appeal that has been made, he has cut the rent for the tenants by 50%. I think that is wonderful, and I want to commend that particular landlord or the agent of a property owner who has cut the cost of the rent by 50%. And I hope those other landlords, within your measure to do, would deliver some relief to your tenants. I would want now to invite the wrap-up comments from the Honorable Ian Patches Liburd, followed by the Deputy Prime Minister, and to thank all those who had the opportunity to call in. I know several indicated that they were trying, they were not successful, but we appreciate your good efforts. We have had a wonderful night. Minister Liburd.
Copy of the 2015-2020 manifesto. And if one peruses our manifesto, one would glean from that glance that we have executed most of our capital projects. But one would also recognize that we have executed many projects that are not part of our manifesto. I can think of the airport reparation works, rehabilitation works. When we came into office, the Robert Llewellyn Bradshaw Airport was found to be in deplorable condition and attracted on a regular basis the attention of the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority. And this forced us to after an accident or an incident by an aircraft that was departing, the Amerijet to be exact, we were forced to resurface the entire runway at the Robert Llewellyn Bradshaw Airport to the tune of some $19 million. The lighting as well at the airport, the runway lighting, were in deplorable condition. And we had to based on recommendations from ECHO, we had to install brand new modern, or we installed rather brand new modern solar lighting for just over $2.5 million. For about 5 or 6 years, the main taxiway that accommodates the wide-bodied aircraft and the heavier aircraft, taxiway Alpha, was not operational. And we had to spend money as well to do all the taxiways, and we're just about completing taxiway Alpha. Look at the seaport. That was not, the cruise pay was not a part of our manifesto, but we generated exponential growth in cruise ship arrivals, which forced us to spend some $130 million for a brand new cruise pier. And I can tell you, we looked at that in the cabinet for nigh 2 years. I don't believe that many of us are aware that we have 2 celebrated accountants in the cabinet. One with a PhD, who is the Prime Minister, and one with an ACCA, is it? Who is the Deputy Prime Minister. And when I recall, when we were doing those projects, the Prime Minister influenced the cabinet, and rightly so, for us to have an independent opinion on the projects that, on the proposals that we entertain. There's one proposal whose client, who's the lawyer for the client, was behind the cabinet with all sorts of communications. And we went to the best. We went to Ernst & Young. And Ernst & Young opined that the CCC proposal was the better proposal. When that came back, the other accountant in the cabinet and Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Shawn Richards, recommended that we have a value for money analysis, and we did that. So we scrutinized all these projects. So the other areas and projects that were not part of the manifesto, the Island Main Road was in such a dilapidated condition, potholes every place, and we had to address them. And that cost the government $69 million to do so, and we are continuing to do so. So I made the point because, you see, we are a government that care about the people. We are a government that are intent on ensuring that the transformation is not only seen but felt in terms of its derivative, which is the continuing economic development of our country. And as I close, I want to say that Team Unity is united in battling COVID-19 as we have been united for the past years, 5 years in cabinet. I have been in the cabinet for 5 years, and I've never seen the cabinet ever, on any occasion, disunited. Once again, when you look at the PAP, you look at the roof program, we put the federation's people above politics. Now we have come together to secure a safer future, even as the world faces a pandemic. As the pandemic approached, the Prime Minister brought the cabinet together, and we took an early, deliberate decision based on this advice from our medical and public health professionals, based on the science. We took an early decision to close our borders, introduce containment and testing. The Prime Minister and the Cabinet and the Prime Minister always have to remind us that we paid off the IMF debt, which was left here for us. We paid off the debt 4 years ago, and today we have one of the best stimulus programs that any country can use as a template of how to deal with crises. The Prime Minister made mention of Antigua and St. Lucia. I need not mention it again. But we took important decisions, life-saving decisions, because we know that unity matters. Our priority is health and the well-being of St. Kitts and Nevis. Because of strong early action and a lack of new cases, we can now look to a brighter and safer future. I want to thank you again. I want to thank the people of East Bastia and by extension the people of the country who continue to repose their confidence in our Team Unity administration. And I will repeat, as my good friend said, one term deserves another. Thank you.
One good term.
One good term deserves another. That's right.
Thank you, Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you. By way of closing remarks, I want to read 2 comments from 2 persons who said that they were trying to call into the program. One says, "Good night, Honorable Shawn. I was trying to call in on the show, Leadership Matter, but it's very difficult to get in, but want to say to you that gesture to give the children lunch is a good idea, and by extension, the government is doing a great job. Keep it up. One good term deserves the next, and surely y'all would win again whenever the time comes." The other one is from Liburd, and she says, "Good night. I was trying to get into the program, but was unsuccessful. I would like to congratulate the Prime Minister and his cabinet for a job well done. My heart became full tonight of the many initiatives that were rolled out. A big thank you. To God be the glory. Long live Team Unity. Let me also take the opportunity to say a very special thank you to the hardworking staff from the Ministry of Education. These are individuals who have responded to the call of duty in a most positive way. Several persons at the administrative department, in particular the finance team led by Melvin Basso, assisted with the writing of checks today for the persons, as I said, some $83,000. A special thank you to also to my personal assistant who has been helping me to coordinate things, to my peers, to the CEO, to the education planning unit, and all of the other departments within the Ministry of Education. Dr. Esdell, who was here with us last week, Dr. Pemberton, Dr. Esdell, as I said, Dr. Pemberton, Dr. Isaac, the entire team from the Ministry of Education, Mrs. Patricia L. Caesar, Mr. Leon Williams, who is in charge of the Schools Meals program. They have all been doing an excellent job within the ministry, and as such they must be commended. It has been a team effort and the team has worked very well. It has been my pleasure being here this evening as a part of this Team Unity administration. I think that when the history of St. Kitts and Nevis is written, this Team Unity administration will be given very high marks, not only for our first term in government, but at a time when leadership was needed, for the strong leadership which has been provided. I think that COVID-19 represents an excellent opportunity for many case studies to be undertaken, whether it is that one wants to do a comparison in terms of how different islands within the region has responded to the pandemic, and certainly St. Kitts and Nevis has responded better than all of the other islands within the region. And in doing that particular case study, I think one would come to the realization that we have been able to do so because of the excellent planning prior to and also post-COVID-19 and during COVID-19. So many persons have come to the fore. We have seen the good from a majority of our citizens, and it is this good that we want to see continue, because it is out of this good that the nation will grow from strength to strength, that our people will grow individually and our economy will be able to withstand COVID-19 and return to the levels of growth that we have seen in the past years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Prime Minister. And let me add to the list of commendation. This has really been an all-of-society approach, all-of-government approach. So I commend everyone. And at times, as we add names, we, through inadvertence, miss names. And I would want to say all of our citizens have my deepest appreciation and commendation. I got a WhatsApp that we should hail and commend the workers at Casper, the St. Christopher Air and Seaports Authority. I heartily commend you, as I did in Parliament, for your outstanding work. You ensure that our ports were available to deal with some very critical supplies of goods, and to ensure, for example, our ports were available to facilitate the entry of some 34 health professionals from Cuba who came in to strengthen our ability to respond to the pandemic which we now face. So port workers, in my view, are part of the front line, We commend the chairman and we commend the CEO, Dan James, and all others for the job that they are doing. I equally want to mention the supermarkets, the workers there, those at the pharmacies, those were among the first group of businesses which were allowed to open up to provide essential goods and services. So I know when we were on 2-day partial curfews, the work was very strenuous, and I hope that the operators and the business owners have been treating you, the workers, very well. I commend them for doing so. So all those who had the special job to do did it diligently, professionally, and knowing that this was a moment in history, my fullest and my cabinet's fullest commendation. Tonight we discuss a number of areas, and one that had come critically to the fore is that this pandemic requires a significant quantum of monies, and that this government has pledged over $120 million to provide support across several sectors. There have been areas where we did not foresee, but they have made demands upon the finances of the country, and we have been able, nonetheless, to take those special cases in good stride. I want to commend the Financial Secretary and all the other workers in the Ministry of Finance for their help over the last 5 years for keeping the finances of the country on good keel, so that an even keel. Today, St. Kitts and Nevis is the best managed country within the hemisphere. I want equally to commend the staff of the Human Resource Department, who even in lockdown days would have gone to their offices to ensure that payroll could be met, that every step worker who was engaged was able to get their money in time to take advantage of the limited operations. So I want to commend the Treasury Department, the Department of the Accountant General, the staff who would have facilitated the payments of the PAP, the payments to the step workers, and all other payments have been made on behalf of the government to the so-called non-establishment workers and even to the regular civil servants, because we were able on some occasions to bring forward and to make payments earlier. So commendations to the entire country. The promise that I make to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis is that I will do my endeavor best to do all in my power to take St. Kitts and Nevis to a state of near normalcy, and that working together with you, we shall certainly defeat this pandemic, and we will emerge stronger and better for it. So I say thank you for your patience. I want to remind you that your health and safety come first. Those are my priorities, and everything that I have done and will continue to do will be to protect you. I want you to help me to do that. It was the WHO's Director General, Dr. Tedros Adhanom, who advised that we must move in a slow and careful manner to open up our economies and to, as it were, get on to a return to normalcy. Clearly, his advice is instructive and good, because if we were to move too fast, to do too many things, we can get a more serious surge of infections. And we have been heeding that advice. And that is why we have moved in a gradual way from 2 days of operations from zoning restrictions to a removal of the zoning restrictions, 4 days and 3 days of lockdown. So we are taking the advice of the health professionals, Dr. Tedros, and also our local health professionals. We can get there. We are not doing badly, but if we risk it, if we gamble, if we are too quickly to do too many things, we can make errors. So again, patience is a virtue, and I thank all those who understand that it's all right to hustle to make a dollar, but it will make no sense to hustle to make a dollar or even $1,000, and then you have to pay all that and more to seek medical treatment, to buy products from the pharmacy, because you would have jeopardized your health and perhaps your life. So I want you to know that the government is with you. That is why we open up the economy for new and more businesses to begin to participate. As we move forward, of course, I must remind you that the other lockdown period will come after tomorrow, will be for the weekend coming up, the so-called Labor Weekend. And that will continue, and then we open up. Tuesday will be, as it were, a day in which you can participate, normal operations for a limited period of time while respecting the social distancing requirements before the night curfews. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 4 more days in which you can go about doing the normal things, respecting the social distancing, respecting the new etiquette in relation to coughing and sneezing, respecting the fact that you must wear masks for your own protection and for the protection of others. Those are part of the new norm. I want to remind people that our borders will be closed and will remain closed for as long as is necessary, for as long as our health professionals indicate to us that there's a health challenge or health risk, we will want to keep our borders closed. And anyone that is allowed in will be compelled to undergo a 14-day quarantine period, again for their own protection, for halting and slowing the transmission of the virus by anyone who might have come in to anyone here. So that is all being done with a clear indication and consideration for the health of our people. I am certain that when the chapter is written about those countries that have done very well in the management of this significant threat and challenge to our own survival, St. Kitts and Nevis will be given top marks by the rest of the world. Serious observers would have seen that the smallest country in the hemisphere stood tall, took on a major fight, participated in this war against COVID-19. We had our share of battering and bruising by COVID, but with God's grace, we would emerge stronger, better, and safer. It has been my challenge and my opportunity as leader of the government to preside over the country that I love with all my heart and with all my mind at this point of serious crisis around the world, when we must look to ourselves first for a response to this crisis. Large countries cannot assist us. Everyone at this time is looking inward for their own salvation. The people of St. Kitts and Nevis are fortunate to have a government that has managed its resources very well. And so at this particular juncture, when the world is busy and each to its own order. St. Kitts and Nevis can look to its savings over the last couple of years, look to its people, their ingenuity, their creativity, and their resilience to give us that first solid response to help our country rebound. And when the world is ready again to engage, St. Kitts and Nevis will emerge from this and day one, willing to engage the rest of the world. We will be stronger, we will be safer, and we will be a more healthy destination in which all can come and take advantage, as it were, participate in the socio-economic life of this, our beautiful country. So thanks again to all of the callers. Thanks again to all who have been commending us and praying for us and working with us. Let us live with hope. Together, we as a people will rise again victorious. God bless the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, and God bless all of us. And to the staff of ZIZ, we owe you a debt of gratitude. The Honorable Minister, Patrice Liburd, will ensure that your good deed will not go unnoticed. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing an excellent job and making a valid contribution to our efforts by being everywhere. The daily news briefing at the National Emergency Operations Center has brought developments of St. Kitts and Nevis in every household and to every citizen and well-wisher of our country. They look to what we are doing, hear what we are doing, and understand that we are doing very well. Tonight has been no exceptions. Thousands of persons across social platforms have been engaged and have a better understanding of the truth. The government is for and with the people. May God continue to bless us all. Thank you.